Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Bulova Super Seville Precisionist reference 96B440. This watch is widely available from Bulova stockists or from the official brand website for €579. Bulova have a rich brand heritage. They were founded in 1875 in New York, so this year, in 2025, they celebrate their 150th anniversary. This piece is a heritage reissue of the original Super Seville from the 1970s, made to modern day specification. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is protected by this white cardboard sleeve. One removes the sleeve, and this is the watch box itself. Charcoal grey, and it's also got the Bulova text logo in gilt. Has a ribbon which is easy to get good purchase on, and that makes it easier to open the spring-loaded hinge lid. One pulls down the flap, and inside there's a protective foam block which you remove. And as you can see, the interior is fully upholstered with an aesthetically pleasing charcoal grey velour fabric to a good standard. And inside the base there's a cutout, and that houses the padded pillow cushion which the watch sits upon. Padded pillow cushion is also upholstered with charcoal grey velour fabric to a good standard. It's a good snug fit in the cutout in the base, and immediately one gets the impression that the Bulova Super Seville Precisionist is a high quality piece. I like the way it closes up, and the spring-loaded hinge lid snaps shut with a nice positive click. Good presentation, good quality watch box. With regards to the items that come with the piece, this is the owner's instruction manual and also the guarantee. So, when opens it, it's a fold-out leaflet. On the left-hand portion, we have the guarantee. You can simply download it from ie.bulova.com/guarantee. This will detail the terms and conditions of the 3-year international warranty. I want to give due credit to Bulova here because often mid-tier pieces, and to clarify, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000 price point. Often mid-tier pieces are only covered with a 1 or 2 year international warranty. To get 3 years of international warranty is excellent, and Bulova deserve full credit for that. On the right hand portion we have the owner's instruction manual, and again you simply download it from ie.bulova.com/manuals. The owner's instruction manual has clear concise diagrams. The instructions are in English, and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Bulova Precisionist quartz. And lastly, one also gets this cardboard tag which says Bulova in gilt and also sapphire crystal, because the piece is sapphire crystal glazed. We have the reference number of this Super Seville, which is the blue version, 96B440, QR code, and also the barcode for the piece. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 38mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 42.2mm, a thickness of 10.4mm, and an integrated lug width of 10.8mm. The integrated bracelet is flared, so at the widest point at the integrated lugs, the bracelet, which is oyster style, tapers from 25.5mm down to 18mm at the 2-button push butterfly clasp. The one negative subjectively, and the one update or enhancement I'd like to see Bulova make to this piece, is to sign the clasp, because as you can see the 2-button push butterfly clasp is sterile and unsigned. I'd like to see the tuning fork emblem, or alternatively Bulova text logo, engraved, or alternatively both, because that would further enhance the piece. But on a positive note, the 2-button push triggers on the left and the right hand flank are mirror polished and proportioned correctly. We have a flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished applied indices and silver mirror polished baton handset. Now, with regards to the balance between vintage aesthetic and also modern day specification, often for mid-tier brands, when they do heritage reissues of pieces from the 1960s and 1970s, it is difficult to get the balance correct between vintage aesthetic, a piece that looks like the 1970s original, and modern day specification. Bulova deserve credit because they have got it correct. The TV case is the same visual aesthetic and also proportions as the original 1970s Super Seville, also the fluted bezel and also the dial layout. So as you can see, applied indices are correctly proportioned, they're faceted rather than being flat. Baton hands are also faceted, and they are mirror polished to a very high standard. I like the use of the iconic Bulova tuning fork emblem, which is applied and faceted at 12 o'clock as an alternative to using an index. Bulova text logo has the original font, and also it's crisp and high definition. The printing is high quality. The white minute ticks on the chaptering are also high quality. They're not too thick, they're not blurry. It's very high quality printing. And they've also used Roman numerals as opposed to just using white ticks for the hour markers next to the indices. The Roman numerals have a nice sharp font, so the quality of the printing on the dial is high level, and I really like that. Also, at the 6 o'clock position, we've got 262 kilohertz, and that refers to the Bulova Precisionist quartz, which runs at 262 kilohertz, which is 262,000 hertz. And I'll detail why they are proud of that, and they are right to print it on the dial. It's one of my favourite aspects of this piece. It's a very high accuracy quartz movement. One detail I like about this blue version of the Super Seville is the vertical brushed satin finishing to the dial. So rather than using sunburst blue dial, or alternatively a glossy enamel blue dial, alternatively textured matte dial, they've made the correct decision because the vertical satin finishing makes a refreshing change, but it gives the piece a high level feel to it. This really does look like a high tier level piece, and to clarify, high tier is €10,000+. The vertical brushed satin finishing to the dial is very elegant, it's very aesthetically pleasing, and I think it looks visually more aesthetically pleasing than using a matte textured dial or a sunburst finish dial, or alternatively glossy enamel finish dial. Vertical satin finished dials really do look high tier level. So silver mirror polished applied indices contrast well with the vertical brushed satin finished dial, as does the baton handset. The baton minute hand, just bear with me, I'll move it so you can see it better. It's correctly proportioned because it extends to the applied indices. The baton hour hand is also correctly proportioned. It's long enough to extend to the applied indices, and the second hand also looks correctly proportioned. Now, one has to appreciate it's not a circular dial, so therefore they couldn't make the second hand longer because it has a rectangular shape due to the TV case and TV case shaped dial, and therefore they have to make the second hand short enough to give adequate clearance as it moves around the rectangular shaped dial versus circle. But hands do look long enough, that's the point, they are correctly proportioned. Also like the 3D effect of the chaptering, rather than just being flat printed on the dial, the chaptering actually has a 3D effect, it has a bevel on it, and that also adds interest to it. So the dial is very well executed. Around the date complication we have a silver frame, and also the framing has bevels, and that's good because it means that there isn't a permanent shadow cast around the date complication. Often with dials which are thick, or alternatively dials which have a silver frame around the date window, which has a 3D effect, it creates a shadow around the date complication. And the problem is that reduces the legibility. Even with the Cyclops magnifier, the shadow on the white date wheel with black Arabic numerals makes the date hard to read. But Bulova have got it correct because they framed the date window in silver, but rather than using a deep, thick silver frame, they've actually beveled it internally. And the bevels reduce the shadow because they allow more light to enter the date window in the aperture, and of course that reduces the shadow. So the legibility is good. Cyclops magnifier is correctly aligned. It's not too high or too low, not too far to the left or right, and it provides 2.5 times magnification, so the legibility is good, functionality is good. One can clearly read the single and the double Arabic numerals. So, bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel, fluted, and the quality of the mirror polishing to the fluted bezel is excellent. I like the flat sapphire crystal, the way the edge of it has a bevel which projects above the fluted bezel. Very aesthetically pleasing. Visually it does look very similar to the original Super Seville from the 1970s, but of course this has the modern day enhancement with specification upgraded to 2025 specification. Sapphire crystal with AR coating. In the 1970s, acrylic, plexiglass and also mineral crystal was used, but of course on the Super Seville it did not have sapphire crystal with AR coating in the 1970s. This version does, and visually it looks similar because we've got that nice large bevel which projects above the fluted bezel as per the original, but of course sapphire crystal is hard and scratch resistant and the AR coating improves the legibility, so it's good. The integrated TV case has longitudinal brushed satin finishing to the top of the integrated lugs, and that complements the longitudinal brushed satin finishing to the flanks. Nice slender profile to the flanks. This is what I like about this Bulova Super Seville. It doesn't have thick slab-sided flanks to the case, therefore it doesn't look like a thick block of 316L grade stainless steel. Sitting on wrist, you'll particularly appreciate this when I do the wrist shots. It's low profile and slender, even though it does have the iconic TV case, which was used in the 1970s by Bulova for the Super Seville original. Nice large undercut to the flanks, nice large bevel, which is mirror polished. That deletes some of the meat, so visually it does reduce the look of the slab sides, but also this enhances the comfort level. The large mirror polish bevel deletes the sharp edge on the undercuts to the flanks. This does improve comfort level and feel good factor, but also visually improves the aesthetic because it keeps the flanks low profile rather than being slab sided. Quality of the brushed satin finishing is excellent. This is high tier level, really fine grained satin finishing, beautiful luster to the left and the right hand flanks, and I think they deserve credit because the case finishing is stellar. The crown is a push-pull crown providing 30 metres of hermetic seal, which is perfectly acceptable for a daily wear piece. This does not need a screw-down crown or 100 metres, for example. We're not looking at a dive piece. 30 metres and a push-pull crown is perfectly acceptable for a daily wear or dress piece. Coin edge crown is solid 316L grade stainless steel, coin edge finished, nice large mirror polished chamfer, which deletes the sharp tips to the coin edge teeth, and we've got the tuning fork iconic Bulova emblem embossed, mirror polished cap to it, and the tuning fork emblem is also mirror polished, very high definition, no sharp edges to it. Correctly proportioned, it's grippy and tactile. You can easily get good purchase with your index finger and thumb, but it's not too large, doesn't project too far from the right hand flank, so therefore the benefit is when you flex the wrist, the crown isn't too large and doesn't dig into the back of the hand. Therefore it enhances the piece if you're going to wear it as a daily wear piece for long periods of time. So, as it's a quartz powered piece, one doesn't need to manually wind it, it's battery powered, and of course one pulls it out to the first click, and that is the quick set date complication. So if you look closely at the date window at 3 o'clock, you can see it clicks over with a nice solid click. In terms of sensation, it feels lighter than a Seiko NH35A, which has a heavier clicking sensation to the quick set complication. It actually feels similar to a Miyota 9015, which you may be familiar with, or a Sellita SW200-1. That's the feeling of the quick set complication to this Bulova Precisionist quartz. It does really feel like the quick set complication on an automatic, as such as the aforementioned, but feels lighter than an NH35A. I like it, feels solid. Nice loud audible clicks to it. The single and the double Arabic numerals are correctly proportioned. Nice large fonts, which is clearly legible. Both the singles and the doubles are clearly legible. The alignment is correct. Both the singles and the doubles aren't too far to the left or the right of the frame date window, and they're not too high or too low. Legibility is good, and of course it's enhanced by the bevels internally on the silver frame. As I've detailed, that reduces the shadow effect. It allows more light into the aperture. The other benefit is, of course, the 2.5 times magnification of the Cyclops magnifier. So, works very well. Cyclops isn't too large, but it's large enough to do the job. Pulling it out to the second click hacks the movement. And this is the benefit of the Bulova Precisionist quartz. It does have hacking, therefore it's possible to set the time precisely to the second. So hacking works well, quick set complication works well. We're now in the time setting position. Feels smooth, no resistance whatsoever. It has 8 joules, so minimum friction in the movement, and feels smooth clockwise and anti-clockwise. Medium resistance to it, so in terms of how it feels very similar to other quartz calibers. For example, in terms of how it feels very smooth. It doesn't feel rough or gritty, it doesn't feel stiff, it feels balanced, it feels reliable and robust. I like that there's minimal backplay. When you rotate the coin edge crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response to the baton minute hand. You don't have to take up a lot of slack, you don't have to rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise a lot in order to get the minute hand to respond. So that's good, it's a responsive quartz. Feels nice and tight. So I like the lack of backplay. Some backplay is necessary in the gearing, because if it did not have some backplay in the meshing of the gearing, when you push the crown back in, when the winding stem enters the movements, it will cause the baton minute hand to jump out of position. It needs to remain static. So therefore, has a minimal amount of backplay, which is necessary, but not too much. You don't have to take up a lot of slack. Feels good. I like it. Feels refined. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click. That restarts the movement. You can see the second hand begins to sweep around the dial once again, nice and smoothly. This is something I really like about this piece particularly. The Bulova Precisionist quartz has a very smooth sweep. This is one of the smoothest sweeps I've seen. So to put this into perspective, it is smoother than a 4 Hz sweep of an automatic running at 28,800 vibrations per hour. This is something I like about Precisionist quartz movements. They have this lovely smooth sweep. It's very, very smooth. So to clarify, the 262 kilohertz means 262,000 hertz. And to put that into perspective, That is 8 times higher than a standard quartz, which runs at 32,768 Hz respectively. The benefit of this having a higher frequency, 262 kHz or 262,000 Hz, is it means the higher frequency makes the second-hand sweep smoother, and it makes it look very, very smooth. So this is very aesthetically pleasing as a result. So let's look at the bracelet in detail. Integrated bracelet, as I've detailed, it tapers from 25.5 at the integrated lugs down to 18 at the butterfly clasp. Integrated end link articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit. Doesn't have excess play in any direction, longitudinal, lateral, side to side, up and down play. Feels nice and tight, they've got the balance correct. Friction interference fits, but yet articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, integrated end link articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit. Doesn't have excess play, feels good. Bracelet finishing is stellar. Mirror polishing to the centre links is very aesthetically pleasing, and the quality of the mirror polishing is outstanding. Bulova deserve credit. No flaws in the mirror polishing whatsoever. Outer links are brushed satin finished and beautiful fine grained satin finish. The quality of the satin finishing has beautiful lustre, but the fine grained satin finishing quality matches on the outer links, the same on the top of the integrated TV case, and the same on the flanks. They've done the brushed satin finishing to the same level. Very fine grained finishing. Beautiful lustre to the flanks, the top of the case, and also the outer links. The brushed satin finish outer links complement the top side and underside, and the flanks have the same finish, so they complement each other. They've made the correct decision by not using mirror polishing on the flanks to match the centre links, because that would make the piece too shiny and reflective. It's often a mistake that mid-tier brands make. Between €500 and €5,000. For example, there's a clash in the finishing. They'll mirror polish the flanks to the head of the piece, but then what they do is they brush satin finish the flanks to the bracelet, and then you have a clash in finishes. Mirror polish flanks on the head, and then brush satin finish flanks on the bracelet. It should always be matched. Mirror polish flanks on the head of the piece, mirror polish flanks on the bracelet, versus brush satin finish flanks on the head, brush satin finished flanks on the bracelet. Bulova have got it correct. It's a fundamental, but many mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands get this fundamental incorrect. So, satin finishing on the flanks, satin finishing on the flanks. It's correct. No sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge of the flanks. They've been deburred and chamfered very well. It doesn't pull arm hairs. That's the benefit. Let's check the articulation. Articulates freely. Doesn't feel stiff or kink. That's good. It's not sloppy. Although it's a push pin bracelet versus screw pins, it's not sloppy and yet articulates freely. They've got the balance correct between interference friction fit of the push pins, but not too loose, so it's not sloppy. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. That's the benefit, so wraps around the wrist very smoothly, silky smooth. Doesn't have excess play, doesn't rattle, doesn't pull arm hairs, and again, deburred and chamfered very well. No sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge. It's a comfortable bracelet. Nice aggressive taper. And normally I'd be critical of this on a 38mm head of the piece. For example, if this used a standard oyster style bracelet, alternatively Jubilee style bracelet, I would say that a 38mm head of the piece should have the perfection personified 20 to 16 taper that I often refer to. But however, one has to appreciate this has the TV case as per the original 1970 Super Seville, 38mm correctly proportioned. Therefore, as it has integrated lugs, it does need a wider flared bracelet. 20 to 16 taper on this piece would look undersized with the integrated lugs, therefore it needs a wider, more aggressive taper. 25.5, aggressively tapering down to 18, does look correct. It does reduce a lot of the meat on the bracelet, therefore the bracelet doesn't feel too heavy for the head of the piece. It actually feels very well balanced. Visually it looks good, also feels good. So let's look at the clasp in detail. So the one negative as I've detailed subjectively is I'd prefer to see this signed with the tuning fork iconic Bulova emblem, alternatively Bulova text logo, or both. That would further enhance the piece. That's the one negative, the one thing that's missing from this piece. 2 button push triggers are heavily sprung loaded, both halves open freely. Flawless mirror polishing to the top side, underside and flanks, no sharp edges to the undercuts to the flanks, and the edges have been deburred. The internal corners don't have any sharp edges, which is good. It's signed, as I've detailed, with a Bulova tuning fork emblem, and on the other side it's engraved with stainless steel, which is good. 2 button push triggers have a nice heavily spring-loaded action. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus. Feels reliable and robust. Snap shut with a nice positive click. Both the left and the right hand portion close firmly. and deploys nicely. So it feels good. Now, what I like about it is, and I'll show you this in the wrist shots, is often it's a problem with with butterfly clasp. They do not have half links, they only have full links. And the problem is, by adding or subtracting one full link, often one doesn't get the correct fit. One needs to add or remove half a link. Now, this does have half a link on the 6, half a link on the 12 o'clock side, so one can centralise the clasp. For example, if you need to remove one full link to get the perfect fit, you can take half a link from the 6, half a link from the 12 side. The clasp will remain central, which is good, but you can size it perfectly. So this is the benefit of half links. Many brands, mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands between 500 and 5,000 euro price point get this fundamental incorrect. Bulova have got it correct. Half links enhance the fit. So works well. I like the way it closes, snaps shut with a nice positive click, and I like the way it opens, deploys freely. No sharp edges, and the quality of the mirror polishing is good. Let's check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Left hand inner hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play, feels nice and tight. Right hand inner hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, that's good. Lastly, right hand outer hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. All four feel tight. Left hand outer, left hand inner, right hand outer. All four hinge pins are friction interference fit. Tolerances are good, build quality is good, quality control is good. This is an example to other mid-tier micro brands and mid-tier brands of how to get butterfly clasp execution correct. I like it. Quality is good, visually looks good. Let's look at the case back. So, screwed down case back as opposed to a screw down case back, and it's solid 316L grade stainless steel engraved with high definition engraving with a Bulova tuning fork emblem, Bulova text logo, Super Seville and also Precisionist, and around the circumference we have the specification, reference number and serial number of the piece. Very low profile, it's perfectly flat. This is the benefit of this piece being Precisionist quartz powered versus a mechanical manual wind piece or automatic. It's a very thin piece as a result. 10.4mm is very low profile. The case back is perfectly flat as a result. We're not looking at a deep bubble back case back as used on an automatic. This is a perfectly flat case back. So the benefit of it being flat, this piece is low profile, so visually it looks good and feels good, but also it feels very comfortable because it's very smooth. This is very smooth against the wrist, doesn't feel rough. The engraving is high definition crisp, but it's been polished very well. So longitudinal brush satin finishing to the stainless steel case back. The circumference of it is mirror polished to a flawless standard, but the engraving itself has been polished, so it doesn't have any sharp edges to it. So this is good. It doesn't feel rough, doesn't feel scratchy, feels very smooth, but the quality of the engraving is very sharp. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus because it's difficult, it's shiny. There, you can see the quality of the engraving. Bulova tuning fork emblem, Bulova text logo, Super Seville, and then we've got the Precisionist emblem, as you can see, and around the circumference we've got the specification. The luster is so good on this, it's like a mirror. It's shiny, it's highly reflective. Now, it's not mirror polished, but it's brush satin finished to such a fine level, it's actually shiny and reflective like a mirror, rather like a mirror polished case back. This is very good quality. This is high tier level brush satin finishing on a mid tier piece. This is the kind of luster one would expect on a high tier piece at 10,000 plus euro. It's excellent to see this fine grained satin finishing. The satin finishing is so fine, the luster is so well done. It's actually reflective rather than refracting the light. You can see it's like a mirror. So it does actually look similar to a mirror polished case back. That's how fine the satin finishing is. It's fantastic. One of the best finished case backs I've seen, irrespective of price point. So integrated end links are a good tight fit to the integrated TV case, but they could enhance this by using quick release spring bars. They've used standard spring bars, so this could be enhanced if they use quick release spring bars, because if you want to exchange the Oyster style bracelet, which is integrated, for an alternative strap, for example, it would be beneficial not to have to use a spring bar tool, so quick release spring bars would enhance it. But on a positive note, quality of the finishing to the end links is good, quality to the finishing to the underside of the TV case is excellent. Longitudinal brush satin finishing, and as I've detailed, my favourite aspect of the finishing. If you look at the left and the right hand flanks, you can see they have this large bevel on the undercuts to the flanks machined into it. This deletes some of the meat, so it reduces the depth of the slab sides, but also the mirror polished undercuts, the bevels, they delete the sharp edge on the edge of the case, and this means it feels comfortable. It doesn't feel sharp, it doesn't scratch the wrist. This enhances the comfort level and the feel good factor. Nice large mirror polished bevels. Visually they look good. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. They look good and they also feel good. And they've done a very good job of the mirror polishing to the undercuts to the flanks. It really is excellent. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet, and I'm pleased to report, so you can see I can easily slide 2 fingers beneath the bracelet and butterfly clasp at all times. This indicates this bracelet would fit up to a very large 9-inch wrist size. So even on my large 8-inch wrist, you can see I can easily slide 2 fingers beneath it. 9 inches plus would be no problem. To clarify, there are enough removable links on the 6 and the 12 o'clock side of the bracelet to size it down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size up to a very large 9-inch plus wrist size. And as I've detailed, the benefit that so many brands and micro brands in the mid-tier get wrong, the fundamental that Bulova have got correct, and they deserve full credit for this, which is why I'm reminding you of it. We have a half link on the 6 and a half link on the 12 side. So many brands get this incorrect with butterfly clasp. There's no micro adjustment, there's no ratcheting mechanism, there's no glide lock style clasp. Therefore, it's difficult to get the perfect fit, because sometimes in warmer weather or when one is active, the wrist swells up. And you can size the butterfly clasp bracelet correctly, but then when the wrist swells up, of course, there's no on-the-fly adjustment and it feels too tight. So, half link on the 6, half link on the 12 side, you can get the perfect fit. Bulova deserve credit for that. They've made the correct decision. It's a fundamental, and it's something that so many brands get incorrect. Bulova have got it correct. Feel good factor and comfort level, fantastic. It feels like a very well balanced piece. It's 141 grams. Now, bear in mind, it's 141 grams, but with a very long bracelet, even up to a 9-inch plus wrist size. Even I, with an 8-inch wrist, would be removing 4 to 5 links. And if you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist, you're going to be removing 8 links. If you have a 7 to 8-inch wrist, you're going to be removing 6 to 8 links. So that will reduce the heft down to, if you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist, 120 to 130 grams. If you have a 7 to 8-inch wrist, you can reduce it down to 125 to 130 grams. But the point is, it's not going to be 140 grams, 141 grams, because you're going to be removing several links. But nonetheless, very well balanced piece. Visually, it does look very aesthetically pleasing. It does look very similar to the original 1970s Super Seville. So they've got the aesthetic correct, and as I've detailed, it is difficult for mid-tier brands when they do a heritage reissue of a 1960s or 1970s vintage piece to keep the vintage aesthetic of the original but update it to modern day specification. It's hard to get the balance correct. Bulova have got it correct. Now, above all else, my favourite aspect of the proportions. This is very low profile at 10.4. They fully utilised the benefits of this being powered by the Bulova Precisionist quartz, which is a low profile quartz calibre. You can see how flat the case back is. The flanks to the case with a large bevel that I showed you, which is mirror polished, they give a nice snug fit. This does not sit on top of the wrist like a thick slab-sided block of 316L grade stainless steel. Although it's an integrated TV case, like a tonneau case, it actually curves around the wrist very well because it's got a nice curved profile to the top of the TV case, integrated lugs. Flat profile to the flanks, flat case back, which is perfectly flat, it's not bubble back. This is only 10.4 as a result. Now, needless to say, you'll know from my previous reviews, anything below 13mm is the sweet spot to easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So at 10.4, it's well below the 13mm sweet spot. Therefore, ideal for a daily wear piece, ideal for a dress piece. Looks good. Nice aggressive taper on the integrated bracelet. 25.5 aggressively tapering down to 18 at the butterfly clasp. Beautiful luster to the outer links, which complements the top of the integrated TV case lugs. Mirror polished centre links add interest, but also complement the mirror polished fluted bezel. So they've got the balance correct. They haven't over polished it. Often with daily wear and dress pieces, mid-tier brands have a tendency to mirror polish the case too much and mirror polish the bracelet too much. So, for example, mirror polished flanks and mirror polished flanks on the bracelet would be too much. It would look too shiny, too much like a dress piece rather than a daily wear piece. This does look exactly the same as the original Bulova Super Seville from the 1970s because we've got plenty of brush satin finishing to the TV case, on the flanks, flanks of the bracelet and also the outer links. It's correct. Does look shiny enough to be a dress piece because we have the fluted bezel and also the silver mirror polished baton hands and silver mirror polished indices. So it's shiny enough. Centre links add some interest, they do look shiny. So this could be worn as a dress piece and it could also be worn as a daily wear piece. That's what I like about it. I do like the TV case. It does have a vintage aesthetic. This really does look like a 1970s piece. So TV case shaped dial, TV case bezel and TV case integrated links, as you can see, to the bracelet. It's good. Bracelet articulates well. Now it doesn't have female putilene links because they're integrated, but it's a pleasant surprise because we don't have a very large gap beneath the tip of the lugs or the end of the oyster style integrated bracelet. It does actually pull surprisingly close to the wrist. So looks good and feels good. I like its low profile, does feel very well balanced, doesn't feel like a top heavy piece. The aggressive taper deletes a lot of the meat from the bracelet, so the bracelet doesn't feel too heavy for a 38mm TV case. Taper's good. I'm actually pleasantly surprised because I would have thought this would need a 20-16 perfection personified taper, but the 25.5-18 aggressive taper actually balances very well on the TV case. The vertical satin finish dial is my favourite aspect. It's just fantastic. It's mesmerising to look at. I love the way it changes from an electric blue to a darker blue, depending on light conditions. Legibility is good. AR coating works well. Low profile at 10.4. Comfort level is good. Feel good factor is good. Vintage aesthetic, but modern day specification. Balance is correct. Bulova have got it right. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. So this piece uses C3 Superluminova on the indices, or rather the dots around the indices, and also on the baton handset. So as you can see, good performance. Now, we're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers. Now, one has to be magnanimous. There are 2 absent dots next to the indices, 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Of course, that's necessary because we have the applied tuning fork emblem at 12 as opposed to an index, and also at 3 o'clock we have the date complication, which is framed in silver beneath the Cyclops magnifier. So one isn't going to have space for the dots there. They've had to delete the dot of C3 at 3 o'clock for the date window, and they've deleted the dot because we have the applied silver tuning fork emblem. But nonetheless, perfect colour tone match. The green dots next to the applied indices are correctly proportioned. Legibility is good. Potency of the exciter is good. The green baton hands match the green dots of C3 Superluminova. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers. Now, one has to be magnanimous and realistic here. We're not looking at indices which are fully infilled with 5 to 6 layers. One isn't going to get the same performance just simply from dots which are printed on the edges of the applied indices. Now, subjectively, one could be critical and say, well, they could have fully loomed the indices with larger area, larger plots of C3, because that would have enhanced it. But purist Bulova collectors would argue that then it wouldn't be true to the original, because the original Super Seville from the 1970s had the same style of indices. And they also had dots of Lume, which of course was tritium, because in the 1970s it predated the use of Luminova and Superluminova respectively. Tritium was the industry standard. So, tritium was then discontinued due to its radioactivity and succeeded by Luminova in the 1980s. And then from the 1990s onwards and 2000s, Superluminova succeeded Luminova. But the point is, what we've got here is a good colour tone match. Green dots next to the indices. And also, we've got the baton hands. Now, one also has to be magnanimous. Baton hands are slender. We're not looking at wide hands as per Mercedes hands or alternatively snowflake hands used on a dive piece. Therefore, we're not going to have a large area for 5 to 6 layers to be applied. Baton hands used on dress pieces and daily wear pieces are not as wide. Therefore, it's difficult to apply a large area, a large plot of C3. But we're clearly looking at 5 to 6, although the baton hands are slender, as one would expect. The dots are good. Potency of the exciter on the dots is good. Potency of the exciter on the baton hands is good. Colour tone match is good in daylight. They're white on the dots, on the indices, and also white on the handset. In the dark, they've got the same green tone. The hands don't look darker green or lighter green than the dots on the indices, so they've got the match correct. I think it's good enough. There is room for improvement. Subjectively, they could have applied full lume across the indices to make them fully loomed, but then, of course, as I've detailed, it wouldn't be true to the original. I think it's good enough. Right, so let's discuss the movement use, because this is my favourite aspect of the piece. So, as I've detailed, this is powered by the Bulova Precisionist quartz, which has 8 joules. It runs at 262 kilohertz, which is 262,000 hertz. So, to remind you, and to put that into perspective, 262,000 hertz or 262 kilohertz, is 8 times higher than standard quartzes. Now, standard quartz movements run at 32,768 hertz. So this is running at a frequency which is 8 times higher. What is the reason for that? What is the benefit of it running at 8 times higher? Why do they do that? Well, it has two main benefits. The first one is higher accuracy. When you run a quartz movement at a higher frequency, you increase the accuracy. So that's one benefit. The second accuracy is visually. As I've detailed, the second hand on this piece has a very smooth sweep. This looks smoother, the sweep looks smoother than on an automatic with a 4 Hz sweep running at 28,800 vibrations per hour. So accuracy is number one benefit. Number two benefit is the smooth sweep. So to clarify the accuracy, running at 8 times higher than a standard quartz at 32,768, when they increase it by 8 times up to 262 kilohertz, which is 262,000 hertz, that increases the accuracy to an incredible plus or minus 5 seconds per month. Just think about that for a moment. That's not plus or minus 5 seconds per day or per week. Plus or minus 5 seconds per month. Better than plus or minus 1 second per day. Incredible accuracy. So, to confirm, this one is running consistently at 0 seconds per day accuracy. Plus or minus 0. Perfect accuracy. The stated accuracy is plus or minus 5 per month, but this one is actually 0 seconds per day. Incredibly accurate movement, and that is the real benefit of a Precisionist quartz. The high accuracy due to the high frequency of 262 kilohertz. Now, of course, Bulova are very proud of that, and they're right to be proud of it and print it on the dial. You can see you have the Precisionist emblem and also 262 kilohertz. And that denotes that this is powered by Precisionist quartz. And what we're looking at is the very best of Bulova as a result. The movement in this piece fully justifies the price point of €579. It is reason alone to purchase it. Plus or minus 5 seconds per month is incredible accuracy. Also has a good battery life. Now, often with quartz movements, they only have a 2-year battery life. This has a 3-year battery life. So although it runs at a very high frequency of 262 kilohertz, it doesn't diminish the battery life detrimentally. It still has a 3-year battery life. So potentially, you could purchase this piece and wear it every day for 3 years before needing to change the battery, and it will still maintain plus or minus 5 seconds per month accuracy for the full 3 years. No negatives to it whatsoever. Reliability is excellent, build quality is excellent, materials excellent, finishing excellent, accuracy is stellar. Battery life is still 3 years. Hacking works well, quick set date complication works well, feels good to set the time. I like everything about it. The Precisionist quartz is very high quality, but the point is, this is not Grand Seiko level in terms of price point. You're not paying €2,000 to €3,000 here. This is €579, but one is getting Grand Seiko type accuracy from a high frequency precision quartz movement. The Precisionist quartz has similar accuracy to a Grand Seiko quartz, but of course plus or minus 5 seconds per month, one would expect it to cost €2,000 to €3,000. €579 for that kind of accuracy is stellar. It's what I like about this piece above all else, the Super Seville Precisionist. It's the movement. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So mid-tier piece, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000. This is €579. Yes, I'm going to declare it excellent quality, and I'm going to declare the value as good. Now, I'm not going to say excellent quality and excellent value. Why do I say it's good? Why don't I say it's excellent value? This does face some stiff competition in the mid-tier at €579. But however, the positives, one has to appreciate the movement, and as I've detailed, the Bulova Precisionist quartz, the accuracy of it fully justifies the price point. It's a good high-grade quartz. The other thing is one has to appreciate Bulova has 150 years of brand heritage. That's something that many other brands and micro brands in the mid-tier lack, and it does add value to the piece. Bulova was founded in 1875 in New York, as I've detailed. This year they celebrate their 150th anniversary. So one is getting a piece with 150 years of heritage. The other thing is the Super Seville is a heritage reissue. Again, that adds value because the original Super Seville was produced in the 1970s. This has that heritage, it has that pedigree behind it. So brand heritage is important, 150 years. This piece was made in the 1970s. It's a heritage reissue, has that pedigree. Both of those things add value, and it's something that other mid-tier brands and micro brands lack, and I like that. So that again justifies the €579. The modern day specification of the Precisionist quartz running at 262 kHz, that again adds value. The only negative subjectively is the sterile unsigned clasp. I'd just like to see Bulova engrave it with the tuning fork emblem, alternatively Bulova text logo, or as I've detailed, both the emblem and the logo. That would really increase the quality of this piece. It would give it a higher level feel to it. Other than that, I think it's an excellent daily wear piece. Comfort level is good, feel good factor is good, 10.4mm thick, and it's highly accurate at plus or minus 5 seconds per month. So I'm going to highly recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Bulova Super Seville Precisionist, reference 96B440. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.